Tonight we turn to a headline that's reverberating across diplomatic circles and drawing both praise and sharp criticism. In a recent and unusually candid interview, former U.S. President Donald Trump issued a full-throated endorsement of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, popularly known as MBS, and extended his admiration toward Gulf nations, notably highlighting their economic ambitions and geopolitical assertiveness. In classic Trumpian style, the moment was as dramatic as it was telling. Paraphrasing his own past encounters, Trump reportedly asked MBS during a private discussion, "Mohammed, do you sleep at night?" a rhetorical nod to the prince's relentless pace in consolidating power-driving reforms and reshaping the Middle East. So what's behind the former president's vocal admiration for one of the most controversial and consequential leaders of our time? Trump's praise wasn't limited to flattery. It reflected a broader geopolitical worldview, one in which transactional relationships, business acumen, and raw power are the defining traits of global leadership. In his words, MBS is a very strong man who has done things for Saudi Arabia nobody thought possible. Trump pointed to the Vision 2030 agenda, the meteoric rise of Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, and the transformation of Riyadh into a global investment hub. But he didn't stop there. Trump extended his applause to Gulf nations like the UAE and Qatar, describing them as very smart, very rich, and very strategic. He credited them for doing more with their oil wealth than anyone else, and for building infrastructure, tourism, and trade connections at a level that many Western nations can no longer match. To some, it's a clear signal that Trump sees the Gulf states as a model of 21st century assertiveness. To others, it's a dangerous flirtation with autocracy. There's timing to consider. Trump is mounting a political comeback with one eye on 2024, or at least the legacy that leads into it. The Middle East has always featured prominently in his worldview, particularly through the Abraham Accords, his approach to Iran, and of course multi-billion-dollar arms deals with Saudi Arabia. But praising MBS now, especially given the international outcry over the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi in 2018, is not without consequence. The CIA concluded with high confidence that MBS ordered Khashoggi's murder. The Biden administration has kept relations formal but distanced. Yet Trump continues to frame the incident as a regrettable episode without allowing it to overshadow the strategic brilliance, as he puts it, of the Crown Prince. Critics argue this is moral relativism at best. But for Trump, it's consistent deal-making over diplomacy, leverage over lectures. Let's take a moment to look beyond Trump's rhetoric and examine the Gulf's expanding role in global affairs. Saudi Arabia has brokered oil deals that directly challenge American interests. The UAE is positioning itself as a post-dollar economic node, investing in East Africa blockchain and green tech. Qatar, once the pariah of the GCC, is now home to one of America's largest military bases in the region. Together, these nations are asserting themselves as more than just energy suppliers, they're now geopolitical brokers. Trump's words echo this shift. He's speaking to the rising reality that Washington, London, and Brussels must now contend with Riyadh, Abu Dhabi, and Doha not as junior partners but as independent power centers. The phrase "Mohammed, do you sleep at night?" might seem like a casual quip, but it carries a subtext that resonates with authoritarian admiration. Trump has a history of praising strongman leaders, Putin, Xi, Erdogan, and now MBS. For his critics, it's more than just rhetorical, it signals a worldview that de-emphasizes democratic norms in favor of efficiency, dominance, and control. But within the Gulf itself, that very style of leadership is often credited for delivering results. Cities rising from deserts. Economies diversifying at unprecedented speed. Young populations being offered new cultural and economic horizons. To Trump, this is success. To others, it's the start of a global values divergence. So where does all this leave America? Trump's praise, whether intended as diplomacy or disruption, signals a potential shift in U.S. Middle East policy if he or someone with a similar worldview returns to power. It suggests a revival of Realpolitik, fewer conditions, more deals. Less moralizing, more oil barrels. It also signals to allies like Israel and adversaries like Iran that the balance of power in the region could once again tilt dramatically. And for the Gulf states the message is clear: if Trump returns, their approach to governance and influence may once again find a powerful friend in the White House.